Hey everybody, so today is the last video in our Pluto series. We are doing Pluto in the first. So, to do a quick little recap, Pluto is the death and the rebirth, that transformation, the cycle. It could be a metaphysical, metaphorical death, or it could be a literal death of something or an ending of something in your life. It is places where we become we have intensity. That intensity can border on extremely passionate into obsession, into paranoia. It is whatever house it's in, is a place where we have power struggles with people, and it also rules over things that are taboo. Now we have the first house. The first house is our, it is the almighty self. It is our physical body. This is our meat slab. This is what we look like. It's somewhat of our style, not our purposeful style like our Venus. It's more like an unconscious style, which you unconsciously will go to, or how you would present yourself. It's about how you walk and a little bit about how you talk and stuff like that. Just your physicality. It is also how people perceive you, how you want to be perceived, how you choose to respond to new things. If something happens suddenly and you're out in the world, you draw not only on your moon, which is your instinct, but your ascendant, which is like your just general attitude. It is the place, it's the car that you drive through life, and it's the place where you're going. It's where you're meant to go and what you're meant to develop in your lifetime. So that is the first house. We have three very interesting celebrities that I can't wait to get into. One, we have Cassie, the singer, an ex-girlfriend of Diddy. We have Stephen King, King of Horror, and then we have Dominique Strauss-Kahn. If you guys are not into politics, you may not know him that much, but he is very famous. He's a French politician, and I will get into him in a little bit. So here we go. When it comes, so we're gonna start with your appearance. And obviously this ranges, you could be any gender, any race, but when you have the first house with Pluto in it, especially if it's in Scorpio, which it will be for a lot of us watching this video, you're gonna have very sharp eyes. You got the Scorpio eyes, and that means they are sharp. They can seem a bit pulled. They can just have very sharp corners. They tend to be on the more almond-shaped, chinkier side. I don't even know if that's politically correct to say, but you got a little bit of chinky eyes. They have that scorpionic edge. They can be any color, but they can tend to be very dark. They just may seem very, like Tyra always says, smize. You're always kind of like, you're not even trying to, but you're kind of like smizing with your eyes. And you will have a sort of gothic flair to you and how you dress and come across. You may not mean to do that, especially if the rest of your chart is very light, but it will just come off. Things like mesh clothing, see-through, things that are ripped jeans, things with holes in it, things that kind of cover but also kind of show. You may tend towards darker colors, or you may feel like you look better in darker colors, such as wearing very dark hair, tending towards black and burgundy. These are very much Scorpio colors. Women can tend towards heavy eyeliner. I have a Venus in Scorpio. It's a similar, and I just wear like the wings every single day. So stuff like that, and it makes your eyes even sharper, is how you'll appear. Women can also have the long fingernails that are shaped kind of like claws, things that give you a sort of gothic edge. And then you can but especially if you have a paler skin tone and then you have this very dark hair, it's that contrast that makes you kind of pop. Think like Wednesday Addams-esque. Body may appear in a sexual way, even if you're not trying to, which a lot of times you are. It can come off that way, or other people, you're subconsciously putting these like little antennas out, and people are feeling that. It could be the way that you walk. Maybe it's not just a walk into a room, maybe it's more of a saunter. It could be how you talk, the tone of your voice, the words, you may use some wordplay. Whether you mean it or not, that is transmitting a very sexual, a very powerful energy out to certain people. And that's going to attract a lot of sexual, that's going to attract a lot of sexual experiences into your life, because people, they want to know what is behind that. What is that about? What's behind the curtain? this can really, you have this intensity, like you will be intense in that way. And this can scare off people like Scorpio often does. Scares off people who are not meant to be around us or who just don't really feel like that energy is for them. And it invites the people who like that kind of thing. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're good people, because Scorpio, you know, attracting someone with your sexuality isn't necessarily bad or good, but it's just about who you choose to entertain. So be very wise with who you choose to have certain sexual experiences with, because a lot of people will be attracted to you. And that's a good thing, but it's up to you to pick who you want to share that with. This doesn't necessarily make you sexually attractive. You can be conventionally unattractive. I mean, you know, with this placement, but you're oozing, your aura is oozing out some sort of sexuality, and others feel that and they're tuned into that. Sex is always on your mind, and it is somehow translated into your aura. You have a very magnetizing and intense and sort of mesmerizing energy. And this makes people have an intense reaction towards you. So this is your first house, and then Pluto's coming in with intensity. So when people are first meeting you, they're like, whoa, that was intense. Whether you want it to be or not. You could be a Libra rising. You could be, you know, a calm Capricorn rising. But people are feeling this intensity when they meet you, and they can have subconsciously, you may not have even done anything or mean to do anything. People are having a very visceral reaction. They're not chill about you. People kind of either may really like you or really dislike you, and it's not your fault, and you cannot really control it. It's just in your aura. It's just part of your life experiences. And the best thing you can do is to try to emotionally detach from how other people feel about you. You may have this intensity and passion towards how you're projected and how people are perceiving and interacting with you. But at the end of the day, if someone is not liking Pluto energy, if someone just doesn't like your face, if someone is jealous, if whatever, it would do you no good. You can become obsessed with that, and you can't control how other people feel. So the best thing to do is to try to meditate and bring your intensity, share your intensity with those who want it, and know that if you said hi to Bob in the coffee room and they kind of act scared of you or they don't like you, it's not necessarily something you've intentionally done. It's just kind of the nature of the beast, and to just, you know, let go and let God. Let those who want to come to you and interact with you as much as you can. I know we all want everyone to like us, but the more you can kind of be detached from that outcome, the better and the healthier you will feel about yourself. You'll really excel in scorpionic things. Like I said, fishnets for the ladies, that's totally like where you're supposed to be. Burgundy, dark, black, the smoky eye, the winged eyeliner, the claws, maybe spiky jewelry. This picture of Cassie just really is her Pluto in the first house. And then Steven Seagal, who I didn't even know he had Pluto in the first house, but when you look at him, it makes sense. Now we're going to get into more of the first house in a metaphorical sense, in a more intangible sense. This is one of the houses of your ego. The fifth house is more ego. This is somewhat of your ego to a lesser degree. Who am I? This is a very hard question, I think, for any human being to answer, astrology aside. When you're in your first, but if you really don't know, you look to your sun, your fifth house, and your first house to try to answer that question. And it varies. We are so, human beings, we are so multifaceted. Some Saturday nights, I'm an introvert and I'm in the house reading a book, and other Saturday nights, I'm out until 4 a.m. So trying to say who am I is such a loaded question for anybody. But for you, first house Pluto people, who you are, and this is really a beautiful part of this placement, is always changing. You are like a caterpillar. I don't even want to say that, because you are constantly morphing into something else. You are constantly trying on a new identity trying to find what works for you. It's like when you're about to go on a date or you're about to get married and you keep trying on a dress and you're like, I don't know about this one. Maybe, but Or you might like it and then a week later you're like, I don't know. You are trying on different hats, different hairstyles, different personalities, different ways of waking up every day and living your life because you are trying to see the one that best suits you. And that's why you have to keep changing. And a lot of people who may know you over your life may be confused by these changes because other people may be a little bit more consistent in who they are. That's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It just is. If, let's say, for example, you know your friend at 21, they're like some stoner kid and they just have some regular job and they're kind of just chilling all day and they're smoking weed all day and they kind of just play video games when they're done their little part-time job. Let's say you leave, you come back to your town 5 years later, they got a whole business they're running, they're waking up early, they're working out, they're in shape, they don't smoke, they don't drink, they're totally different. It's the same meat slab, but it's like a totally different person that you're meeting and people may feel like, who is this? It's not that you've necessarily not yourself. You shed certain personalities that do not work for you after a certain time. So maybe at one point in time, you were that stoner kid and that serves you and you like that. And after some self-reflection, some intensity, I forgot to say Pluto is also about the deep reflection, psychology. After doing some psychology on yourself and how do I feel like my appearance is? Where is my life going? How am I going to feel if I'm a stoner, 5 years from now? You may have a sudden burst one day, especially with some transits. You may wake up and throw all your rolling papers out and start going to the gym and start building something up. And so to other people, it would look like you changed, but really that personality that you had was only temporary. It was never really you. Or it wasn't the final version of you. It wasn't what you were meant to be. People may not like this because I said a lot of people are a little bit more consistent in who they are. Again, that's not positive or negative. So your stoner friends might come back to you and be like, come on, let's roll up, let's hit the bong. And you might be like, no, I gotta drop these packages off. I have to go to the gym. You'll probably go through lots of different sets of friends or groups of people in your life because your personality is totally different. A lot of people may or may not want to leave you because you have like a caterpillar or like a snake that molts have left a certain skin behind, and that's what they know, and that's fine. If they don't like what you're doing, there's nothing wrong with that because you've changed. It's not what they signed up for, so they're like, okay, bye. And if you feel you want to leave them behind because you're like, as much as I love you, I don't live that life anymore, that's fine. Some people will choose to stay with you and see your growth and your evolution, and those people should just be patient, and you should be patient with yourself in knowing that at different points in your life you will change. I don't know how old you are when you're watching this video, but if you're in your 40s, in your 50s or whatever, look back on your life and see, like, give yourself like an archetype or like an identity. And see how that changed. See the different suits and the different hats that you wore over time. And if you're younger, know that your life is going to change so much and probably change direction a couple times because you are trying to find what suit fits you best. What wedding dress is going to be the one. And you should be patient with yourself because there are so many different ways to live life and so many different ways of being. They all have pros and cons. So you are really doing something incredible by trying to figure out what that is. You are brave for trying to figure out what that is. Most people just kind of continue to do what they've always done, but you're not afraid to step out and be new. This is the new version of me. Your core is the same. You are the same. But your habits, your ways are open to change when it needs to be. And you don't drop things just for the sake of dropping them. You don't just suddenly say, I loved horror for the movies for the first 30 years of my life, and now I don't, just because. You drop things because they weren't serving you. One book that I would recommend that you guys read, that I've started to read, is Atomic Habits. I think it really talks about how you can shape your identity, and it's a purposeful shaping and not just sort of a lackadaisical falling into it. So if you have Pluto in the first, I think you should I really recommend this book. You maybe can find like an audiobook or free at the library. It's everywhere. It's amazing, and I think you guys specifically would love it. Every phase in your life can be tracked or punctuated by a certain set of mannerisms. And Pluto will rattle things up and shake that up for you. And it'll make you look in the mirror and be like, well, I don't really recognize myself. You could be a hard partier that turns very religious, or you could be like a stoner kid and you may be like smoking under a bridge all the time. Maybe something bad happens to you, you completely change your ways. You could have like food addiction, or you know what I'm saying, be on drugs and just like walk past yourself and catch a glimpse of yourself and be like, I don't recognize who that is. And you may want to completely change. Never question the change. You can try to explain it to inspire others maybe, but at the end of the day, the only person who really needs to understand it is you. Lessons in life on sexuality. Sex and sexuality will be a huge theme in your life. You are putting out a powerful sexual energy, a powerful aura. If you've ever seen Donnie Darko and the bubbles that shoot out of the chest, it is like a laser beam that's hitting people. And this will bring out a very intense reactions and sexual experiences in your life, and you will make people want to experience that with you because they see that. It is important, it is paramount, and this is a lessons on life. On sexuality, that people act with respect in regards to sexuality, and that goes for how people are reacting to you and how you are reacting to others. Here's where I want to get into some of our celebrity examples. We have Dominique Strauss-Kahn. He is a French politician and director of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, I think it is. I'm gonna put a picture of the documentary. There was a very powerful Netflix documentary that came out a couple years ago where he, again, very world famous, very rich, very powerful politician, is in a hotel room, and a maid, just a local, immigrant maid at a hotel, accuses him of rape. In the documentary, it goes into her history, their past, that led them to that moment, and you start to get a picture. Now, I didn't know he had Pluto in the first when I was watching. He was a man who frequented prostitutes and escorts, and then there are so many women, sex workers, who are coming forward in the documentary and saying that even in the course of him, paying for these services, there's still, I think, some ethics that need to be solved. And one woman was saying, he kept crossing my boundaries. He kept doing things that I asked him not to do. This is not part of the service. The cheating on his wife. We see this powerful in this man sexual energy that he is not trying to control. He's just kind of letting it run amok, cheating on his wife, crossing boundaries, frequenting prostitutes that are on the street, sex workers, and even making them feel uncomfortable, constantly hitting on people, and then finally being accused of rape. Now, at the end, he wasn't convicted. He's still, out there doing what he does. The circumstantial evidence kind of looking like he did it, but, also had an illegitimate son outside of his marriage. So again, just letting his, I don't know what I can say on YouTube, letting his other head lead the way. And that is not what we want, because it can lead us to do things that are immoral. And I'm sure that nobody wakes up and wants to be immoral, but when you are just letting that part of you think, thinking with this head and not with this head, then you can find yourself in situations or find yourself with, again, this aura. When people meet you, they know that you're that kind of like pervy guy that frequents a bunch of prostitutes and makes them cry even after, and rape, allegedly somebody. So it's important to get a hold on our sexuality, to say this is this powerful urges that I have, but I want to make sure that I'm not committing any crimes, that I'm being respectful, that I'm not just letting the feeling overtake my entire life. Now think about it, you know, they made a whole Netflix documentary about what a pervert he is. Like, who would want that? If, you know, someone had to make a documentary of you, who would want that? Why would you want to be remembered that way? You know, your family has to see you that way. So I thought he was a really good example of somebody who their Pluto is like, he just let it, he lets his Pluto have more power. He's not controlling the Pluto. The car is driving him. He's not driving the car. He did not follow respect for other human beings in the realm of sexuality. And another example, we have Cassie, who has Pluto in the first. And this is an example of someone not following sexual respect towards her. It's not that she's doing anything. So I thought this was very interesting. She recently came out in November, that Scorpio season, with the accusations against Diddy of rape and sex trafficking and just really shocking things. And she has this Libra Ascendant with the Venus in the first house. So she just kind of always comes off kind of sweet. And to hear that was just shocking. So I immediately went to her astrology after reading the allegations, and I was like, okay, as a young person, she's very beautiful and she's emitting this sort of sexual energy. And Diddy, being a Scorpio, I'm pretty sure he has a Scorpio stellium, is aware of that. You're having a power struggle, and I'm going to get to this a little bit later too, with someone in your life, and they can be using your sexuality or their attraction to you in a negative way and disrespecting you. You could be the Dominique Strauss-Kahn doing the disrespecting, or you could be the maid who, in a metaphorical sense, has someone disrespect her. Make sure, again, you have intensity. And this is an intensity that people want. Only the people who deserve it, only the people who respect you and respect your boundaries deserve to experience that intensity with you. Overall, sex is very important to you guys. It's very important to us as humans and just as a species. It's how we make more of us, more human beings. It's very nuanced, and there are very different topics, subtleties, and, you know, components of it. What are you into? You know, who are you into? With how many people, and the frequency, and all these things. There's all these different aspects of sexuality. It's very important that you guys go within yourselves. What are your kinks? What are your fantasies? Go within yourselves and ask yourselves, what am I into? Who do I want to do this with, and when and why? And get some introspection and some clarity on yourself so that you're not out here raping people. You are someone who greatly enjoys the fruits of your sexual pleasure and the intensity that these sexual experiences bring you, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually a good thing. Who struggle with their sexuality, but when you do the necessary work that's needed, I think you can really get over those humps, those sexual hangups that a lot of people have, and really start to know yourself in that way and be confident. You have a need for personal power. So that's a very broad statement. And when we get into what that means, you need to be in control of things. But that's a very broad, again, a very broad, you know, thing. Find an outlet so that it comes out in a positive way. Somewhere where you can be in control. Maybe you start a little business where you're the boss and, you know, you tell people, this is what I would like. Maybe you are just in charge of something in some way. Maybe you start a group, you know, even a little hobby group. It doesn't have to be salacious or, you know, super intense thing of control. It just, you like to be in charge of stuff. Even I would even think working for yourself is a form of personal power. As long as you are exerting control over things and over aspects of certain parts of life and not people, then I think you will feel powerful in a way that is respectful to everyone and respectful to yourself. At times you will be in power, and at times you will not. Pluto will take it away from you. The goal is to surrender to that and know that you will get it back, and that you're not always in control, and that's okay. The idea that you can plan a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather. You know, if you plan something and it rains, it's you controlled as much as you could, but sometimes you really have to let go and let God. I keep saying that with this placement, so you don't drive yourself crazy as far as trying to control everything that's going on. I think this prayer is good for you guys. God, give me the strength to change the things that I can, and something about not and knowing the difference. I don't know, the wisdom and the courage to know the difference. I'm forgetting, but and again, I bring up Cassie and Diddy because the control that he tried to exert over her leaving, over where she was, over what she wore, over her hair, over her appearance, that power struggle with this is me, but somebody's trying to control me like a puppet. And she metamorphosized. She left, she changed, she's now a mother, she's in a different space, and she came back shedding her skin, and she came back powerfully and stronger because that was more of who she was. And you know, she got that $30 million settlement in like 2 days because she knew she told the truth. And she came back so strong and so direct that you just have to respect it. You just have to go with it and be like, wow, this is who she is now. She's not that weaker, shy girl anymore. She is changed in a good way. So that metamorphosis of her Pluto in the first house, I thought she was such an amazing example and a positive example. So I was really proud of her for that. In your life, you have Scorpio interest, Scorpio flair, so I would allow some Scorpio-ness. Watch some Scorpio videos, do some Scorpio shit, and bring that into your life. Go to an adult theme store. They're popping up everywhere. Really get into your more erotic fantasies and do some reflection about what exactly you're into. Read some books, watch some movies, or whatever you like. I would say Halloween, dressing up, cosplaying, you know, things that are related to horror are all really up your alley. Things that are gothic, you know, metaphysical, astrology, you know, tarot cards and stuff like that is really something that you guys should give space to in your life and not try to shove down, because it's just in you and it interests you. And you know, again, as long as you're being respectful, there's nothing wrong with that. So I would say really let your Scorpio flag fly and you will feel very, very confident. Boutiques, certain boutiques, adult boutiques, burlesque shows, investigation. You might just be a person who likes to watch like 48 Hours or like those 2020 murder shows all the time. Stuff like that is just, it makes your Pluto feel like good, like it's sitting on a pillow, like it's happy. You want to make your planets happy. That is the end of the video. The final lessons for Pluto in the first are just constantly checking in with yourself to see who you are and what you like and what you don't like in an identity sense, in a life direction sense, in a sexuality sense, and making sure with the things that you're intense with yourself and, you know, things that you desire, that you are always being respectful to other people and that they are always being respectful to you. And remember that you can change at any time in any direction that you want. So that was it. Oh, and I forgot to say, Stephen King, you know, with the horror, self-explanatory. But anyway, that's it for Pluto in the first. Thank you for watching. Please comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next series, which is going to be Mercury.